Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to try and piece together a huge political puzzle, something that's really reshaping our world. We're talking about the great unraveling of identity politics.
Okay, let's dive right in. We're kicking things off with a political trend that, as we look at it from 2026, has a lot of experts, well, scratching their heads. It's making people question decades of old assumptions.
And it really starts with a question that, on the surface, doesn't seem to make much sense. See, for decades, political strategy was built on these really solid, predictable voting blocks. But the latest data? It shows those old certainties are just starting to crumble.
And here's the hard data to back that up. Take a look. In 2020, you had about 12% of black men supporting Trump. Fast forward to 2026, and that number is estimated to have nearly doubled to 22%. I mean, that is a huge shift in just a handful of years. It's a massive signal that something really profound is changing under the surface.
You know, this isn't just some random blip on the radar. It's a symptom of a much, much bigger shift. And to really get our heads around it, we need to unpack the powerful and, often pretty controversial idea that's driving all of this.
All right, so let's get right to it. We have to define the one term that's at the very heart of this whole conversation. What exactly is identity politics?
Well, to put it simply, it's when politics stops being about what you believe and starts being about who you are. It's this whole framework where your shared traits, things like race, gender, religion, become the main reason you team up with others politically. The whole goal is to demand rights and social justice specifically for your group.
In this slide, this really shows the fundamental change perfectly. Think about it. In the 20th century, the big political fights were usually about class, right? It was capitalists versus workers. But today, the starting point for so many political debates is identity and all the unique experiences that come with your personal attributes.
Okay, so if politics is now all about identity, then why are the old labels starting to fail? Why are these neat little categories becoming less and less reliable when it comes to predicting how someone's actually going to vote?
Here's the thing, and this is so important. A person's identity isn't just one thing. It's got layers. Race is just one of those layers. A voter is also thinking about their economic situation, inflation, jobs. They're thinking about their religious beliefs, their values, and even their generational outlook plays a part. For some people, a desire for strong leadership might just be more important than what they see as a kind of top-down, maybe even paternalistic, protection from one political party. You can see this playing out so clearly with Hispanic voters. I mean, look at this number, 46.5%. That's the estimated share of the Hispanic vote the Republican Party is projected to get by 2026. And the thinking is, this is happening because many no longer see themselves as just part of one single minority group. Instead, they identify more as part of the American middle class. And they're worried about the same things everyone else is, like crime and the economy.
So what this all means is that the game has fundamentally changed. Politics isn't a simple contest of color-coded groups anymore. It's turned into a much more complex, a battle of values. A battle where what an individual believes is starting to matter a lot more than the label someone else puts on them.
Now let's be clear, identity politics started out as a tool to fight for dignity and rights, and it did bring real progress. But it's also a double-edged sword, and the risks that come with it have become, painfully clear by 2026. So on the one hand, you have the positive side. It absolutely gave a voice to people who didn't have one, and made forms of discrimination that were once invisible impossible to ignore. But then there's the other side of the coin. The very act of highlighting what makes groups different in order to fight for their rights, it also ended up making the divides between those very groups even deeper. In fact, experts now point to three major side effects. First, you get this intense social division. Society starts to fracture into these competing tribes. Second, there's something called elite capture. This is where the leaders of a movement can get disconnected from the real day-to-day economic worries of the people they're supposed to represent. And third, you get a backlash. Majority groups can start to feel threatened, and they end up forming their own identity movements in response. So, this all brings us to the final part of our explainer today. If the old way of doing things is breaking down and, frankly, creating a whole new set of problems, then the big question is, where do we go from here? Well, in the face of all these challenges, a new idea is really starting to gain some traction. And it's a potential shift away from policies that target people based on who they are and towards solutions that target the actual challenges they face, no matter what their background is. And this table here shows you what that looks like in practice.
For instance, in education, instead of helping a student because of their race, this new approach would help them because they come from a low-income family. Or look at the workplace. Instead of hiring quotas, you'd have anonymous skills-first evaluations. It's a really fundamental shift, a move toward universalism.
So really, the crucial thing to take away is this core tension that we're all living with today. You have this tool that was born to protect the dignity of individuals, but now it's also being wielded as a weapon of division, splitting society into these warring groups.
And that leaves us with one last, and I think pretty provocative question. We know these labels once served a really vital purpose in the fight for justice. No one's denying that. But as we look to the future, maybe the real challenge isn't about finding a better label. Maybe it's about learning to see the individual beyond the label, because that might just be the only way we can unite and rebuild a shared sense of purpose.